So let me ask you a question. When you think about voting, how many states in America you think require a photo ID when you go to vote? Photo ID, like, listen, you want to vote? Show me your photo ID. What do you think that number is? What if I told you 16 states in America do not require a single ID for you to vote? Not even a photo ID. 35 states require some sort of an ID, of which 24 are photo ID, 11 any other kind of an ID, and 16 no ID at all. You wonder why so many people don't trust the current voting system. And by the way, did you know from 1776 till today, how many times we've introduced new methods of voting? 7. But do you know when's the last time we introduced a new method of voting? Since the 80s. How much has technology advanced since the 80s? Was there social media in the 80s? Was there Google in the 80s? Was there blockchain in the 80s? Do we have Bitcoin in the 80s? How much has changed? Think about AI, everything that's going on today. Do you think with all the great minds that we have in America today and the world today, we can't figure out a more safer, secure way to vote? Why are people not talking about this stuff? Today, I got a bunch of things we're going to talk about on how we can improve our voting system. If you get value out of this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Let's go through the history of voting. So 1776 till 1880s, we had the paper ballots. Initially, voting was done verbally or through paper ballots, which were often handwritten. Then, in the mid-19th century, we introduced the party-printed ballots. Political parties began printing their own ballots, which voters would cast. Then in 1880s, we had the secret ballots, also known as the Australian ballot. This method was adopted to ensure privacy and reduce voter manipulation and intimidation. Then came the mechanical voting machines in 1892 till 1990s, the lever machines introduced. Then these machines used levers and were widely adopted throughout the 20th century. They remained in use in some places until the 1990s. Then we had the punched card systems from 1960s till 2000s. Introduced in the 60s, these systems gained popularity, but issues with hanging chads during the 2000 presidential election led to their decline. Then we have electronical voting called DRE, D-R-E, Direct Recording Electronic Systems, presented in 1970s. These systems record votes directly into computer memory. DREs became prominent in the 2000s, especially after the Help America Vote Act, HAVA, of 2002. Then we got, last but not least, the optical scan voting, 1980s till present. Voters fill out paper ballots that are scanned and counted by machines. These methods offer a combination of electronic processing with a paper trail. So those are different systems we had on how to vote. And then when you think about voting over the years, we made a lot of changes. We made some different kind of new rules that we've introduced. 15th Amendment, 1870, prohibited denying the right to vote based on race, color, or previous condition or servitude. 19th Amendment, 1920, granted women the right to vote. 24th Amendment abolished the poll tax in federal elections. Voting Rights Act in 1965 aimed to eliminate racial discrimination in voting, including provisions for federal oversight and enforcement in certain jurisdictions. Then we have the National Voter Registration Act of 1993, also known as the Motor Voter Act. It required states to offer voter registration opportunities at motor vehicle departments and other public offices. Then we have the Help America Act of 2002. Then we have the Bipartisan Campaign Act of 2002. Then we have the Early Vote and Vote by Mail. And then we have automatic voter registrations, AVRs. So now you may be asking, well, Pat, what states use any of these 7 methods of voting? Here's what it looks like. Optical scan, which was introduced in the 80s that we use until today, 24 states use that method. Optical scan and DRE is used by 11 states. Hand count and optical scan is 8 states. Hand count, optical scan, and DRE is 6 states, and DRE alone is 1 state. So now the question becomes, do we want voting accessible to more people in a more honest, clear way that we can get guys to know exactly how did you vote? A lot of people, think about yourself. How many people are not planning on voting this year? There's a lot of people that don't want to vote this year. Do we want them to be voting, and why did they not vote in 2020? Here's some of the reasons according to the Census Bureau on why people didn't vote. 2.3 million people didn't vote because they were not interested. 1.9 did not like candidates or campaign issues. 1.7 million were too busy due to their schedule. Another 1.7 million were sick or had disabilities. Around 781,000 didn't vote because they were out of town. 627 didn't vote because of registration problems. 550 was due to COVID. 474 because they forgot. 333,000 because of inconvenient polling places. 307,000 because transportation problems. 12,800 because of bad weather conditions. And 2.7 million people who didn't vote don't know why they didn't vote. They just didn't vote. So why is it, if we have so many smart people, we're not coming with a different way of doing it? How about blockchain? Could we consider blockchain? I mean, even with Hinge, the app you're supposed to delete, says to you when you download the app, right? My guys here are teaching me about all these apps. When you get the app, you first have to do the whole Apple thing that we do like this to get on there, right? To verify that you're not a bot. How can they do it to check with the ID? Well, how come we can do something like that together. There's a lot of places you work where you get your eyes to be scanned before you go work into that place. Why isn't there a way of doing this with blockchain? So let's take a look at blockchain as a possibility of improving our voting system. So blockchain is a shared, immutable ledger that facilitates the process of recording transactions and tracking assets in a business network. Assets can be tangible or intangible, such as intellectual property. So how does blockchain voting work? Blockchain voters use decentralized ledger technology to record votes securely and transparently. 2, each vote is cryptographically signed and added to an immutable public ledger, ensuring that it cannot be altered without detection. And 3, the typical process involves voter registration, secure vote casting through digital devices, and public verification of results. And by the way, this is already being tested in different markets, some in America, some around the world, which we'll talk about. But potential benefits of doing blockchain voting: number 1, enhanced security; number 2, increased transparency; number 3, improved accessibility. So fewer people will be able to say, I just couldn't vote because, whatever reason, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. They're more accessible to them. So let's talk about 3 states that have tested some of the blockchain here. One is Utah, one is Colorado, one is Oregon. Colorado, in Denver, Colorado, a pilot program allowed overseas voters and active duty military personnel to vote for municipal elections through a blockchain-based smartphone app. A local government spokesperson detailed the reason for trialing the technology, saying that it has the potential to make voting easier and more secure. In Utah, in a recent U.S. general election, a person in Utah became the first person to use their cell phone and a blockchain-based voting app to vote for president. With the app, Votes, which has been piloted in a number of states, including West Virginia, Colorado, and Oregon, Utah was the first state to hold a live demonstration of how votes, ballots can be audited. And even MIT looked into it to say, well, there's some ability to tamper, some ability not to tamper. Some are saying you can, some are saying you can't. But anyways, it was tested. So in Oregon, both in Jackson County and Umatilla County, tried a similar system for the same target groups of voters. Jackson County Clerk Christine Walker told AP that the system was being trialed because we need to make sure that our military and overseas voters are not only able to vote, but they can also easily access their ballots in a safe manner. So that's in the States. Then Switzerland tried a blockchain-based voting. Voters could cast a ballot by downloading a blockchain-based app to their smartphones and use their existing digital identities to verify their voting rights. Dieter Muller, head of communications for the city of Zug, said that the premiere was a success. In Japan, the city of Tsukuba had trialed blockchain-powered digital voting. The system employed My Number, which is the equivalent of the Japanese Social Security cards, to verify voter identity. It is being tested out by allowing citizens to cast votes on social contribution projects. They tested it in Brazil, in Russia, and South Korea. I can go on and on and on. There is some criticism and concerns about what this could do. Number 1, technical and security issues. Blockchain voting faces significant technical challenges such as scalability and vulnerability to sophisticated cyber attacks. Some argue vulnerabilities in the Votes app used in West Virginia could allow attackers to monitor and alter votes. Number 2, legal and regulatory hurdles ensuring compliance with existing election law and maintaining voter anonymity and privacy are critical challenges. And 3, complexity and implementation risk. The decentralized nature of blockchain requires coordination among multiple actors, which can delay security fixes and increase the risk of vulnerabilities. Now, obviously, we're not the first ones that's talking about this. This has been in the works for a while, but some states are a little bit worried about it, such as New York, California, even Texas is uncomfortable about it. California and New York both expressed significant concerns about the security and feasibility of blockchain voting. Election officials highlighted the need for more rigorous testing and validation before considering adoption, and Texas remains skeptical about blockchain voting due to potential cybersecurity risks and regulatory challenges. So it's not like it's only the left, California and New York, but it's also Texas, which is the right. So they're both a little bit saying, we'd like to go there. We're not sure if we're fully convinced yet. So all of this stuff that we're talking about really comes down to one thing. If you look at Pew Research, this chart I'm going to put up right now, it shows they started tracking how much you and I trust the U.S. government. And when they first started tracking this in 1958, it was 73%. You know what that number is today? 16% of the American people trust the U.S. government. So what are they saying? Are they saying, I don't know how you guys are counting my vote. Like, do you even know if your votes are being counted or not? Do you know? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I asked a question on Twitter to do a poll with a very basic question. The question is, would you feel comfortable if your presidential vote was public? 76% on this poll said yes. 24% said no. And there's a lot of back and forth on comments. But I think, what if we made your vote public? Because that would be a way to go and say, okay, I voted. Great, I know it's counted for. Oh, hey, Mom, did you count? But why is it saying you voted voted this way? Because it's public. What if we did it that way? What if you say, no, I'm not interested in something like that? Okay, great. What if we use another form of technology? But the fact that we're not looking at our options on what technology we can use to make it more efficient with the amount of innovation we've had since 1980 to today, that's 44 years of innovation. We don't want to consider a new way. So my idea is the following. Whoever becomes a president today, whoever's interviewing this president today, must be asking them. There's been 7 different ways that we have changed the way we elect presidents to make it more and more efficient. We haven't done so since 1980s. What is one way you're going to be making voting easier, more trusting, so we go up from 16% trust in the U.S. government to 73%? What will you do to increase the level of trust the American people have in their U.S. government because they don't trust it today? That would be one of the questions I would ask the president today. So if you got value out of this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. If you enjoyed this video, there's another video I did on the difference between anti-establishment candidates and establishment candidates and how much they relied on you for them to become president, how much these guys said, now I'm going to put my own money in. Wait till you see this data here. If you've never seen it, click here to watch the video. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye, bye-bye.